Ever found yourself at a crossroads, trying to choose between reverb and delay for that perfect sense of depth? You're not alone. The reverb versus delay debate is as old as time in the world of music production. We've got these tools in our back pocket, and they're amazing for tweaking the mood. But what sets them apart? How do we decide which one will bring out the soul of a track? I'll break it down. Reverb is a game changer in music production. It's the secret sauce that adds depth, dimension, and space to your tracks. But here's the thing, not all reverbs are created equal. To make the most of this powerful effect, you need to understand its key parameters, various types, and when to use it. Let's talk about the key parameters of reverb. These are the knobs and dials that give you control over the sound. The main ones to know are decay time. This determines how long the reverb lasts. Longer decay times create a bigger, more expansive sound, while shorter times are great for adding subtle space. Pre-delay. This is the time between the original sound and when the reverb kicks in. Adjusting this can help separate the reverb from the dry signal for clarity. Size. This controls the perceived size of the space, from small rooms to massive halls. Damping. This affects how quickly high frequencies decay, simulating the absorption of sound by soft surfaces like curtains or carpet. By tweaking these parameters, you can sculpt the perfect reverb for your mix. Now that you know the key parameters, let's explore the different types of reverbs out there. The main categories are plate reverb. This uses a large metal plate to create a bright, dense reverb with a fast attack. It's a classic sound for vocals and snare drums. Room reverb. As the name suggests, this emulates the natural reverb of a room. It's great for adding a sense of space and realism to tracks. Hall reverb. This simulates the grand, expansive sound of a concert hall. It's perfect for creating a big, lush sound on instruments like strings and piano. Spring reverb. This uses a spring to create a unique, twangy reverb effect. It's a classic sound for guitar amps and surf rock. Digital reverbs. These are software-based reverbs that can emulate all of the above types and more. They offer tons of flexibility and control. Each type has its own character, so experiment to find what works best for your music. So when should you reach for that reverb, pedal, or plugin? Here are some ideal situations. To add depth and dimension to a dry recording. To create a sense of space and place instruments in a mix. To enhance the sustain of instruments like guitar and piano. To create dreamy atmospheric effects. To glue together a mix and make it sound more cohesive. The key is to use reverb tastefully and in moderation. Too much can quickly make a mix sound muddy and washed out. Start with a little and gradually add more until you achieve the desired effect. Delay is another powerhouse effect in the world of sound engineering. It's the secret weapon that can add rhythm, depth, and interest to your tracks. But to wield this tool effectively, you need to understand its crucial parameters and when to use it. First, let's talk about the key parameters that shape the sound of delay. Delay time. This is the time between the original sound and the delayed repetitions. Shorter times create a slapback effect, while longer times can create rhythmic echoes. Feedback. This controls how many times the delayed signal repeats. Higher feedback settings create more repeats that decay over time. Mix. This balances the level of the delayed signal with the original dry signal, A 50-50 mix is a good starting point. By adjusting these parameters, you can create everything from subtle echoes to wild psychedelic effects. So when should you use a delay effect on your track? Here are some prime opportunities to create rhythmic interest and movement in a track, to fatten up and add depth to a thin sounding instrument, to create dreamy atmospheric effects, to add a sense of space and dimension to a mix, to create unique ear-catching effects like ping-pong delay. The key is to use delay creatively and purposefully. A little can go a long way in adding interest and depth to a track, but too much can quickly make things sound cluttered and messy. Experiment with different delay times, feedback settings, and mix levels to find the sweet spot for your music. And don't be afraid to get creative with stereo effects and automation to make your delays really stand out. With a solid grasp of delay and its parameters, you'll be able to add new dimensions of rhythm, depth, and interest to your mixes. Reverb and delay, two sides of the same coin or completely different beasts. The truth is, these two effects have a lot in common, but also some key differences. Let's explore the similarities and differences between reverb and delay. One of the main differences between reverb and delay is how they create a sense of space. Reverb simulates the natural reflections of sound in a physical space, like a room or hall. It's all about creating a sense of depth and dimension. Delay, on the other hand, is a purely time-based effect. It creates a sense of space by repeating the original sound at set intervals. So while reverb is about simulating a physical space, delay is about manipulating time. Now that we've explored the similarities and differences between reverb and delay, let's talk about how to use them together effectively. Because while these effects can be powerful on their own, they can be even more impactful when combined. Here are some strategies for blending reverb and delay in your mixes. The key to using reverb and delay together is to think about how they interact. Here are a few tips. Use reverb to create a sense of space and depth, and delay to add rhythm and movement. Try using a short reverb and a longer delay to create a sense of space without muddying up the mix. Experiment with using delay before reverb to create interesting textures and soundscapes. Use automation to change the balance of reverb and delay throughout a track for added interest. Ready to take your reverb and delay game to the next level? Here are some creative techniques to try. Create a shimmer effect by using a long reverb with a pitch shifter. Use a short delay with high feedback to create a slap back effect on vocals or guitar. Automate the mix of a long reverb to create a reverse effect. Use a stereo delay with different times on the left and right channels to create a wide immersive sound. When you start mixing reverb with delay, honestly, the sky's the limit. So don't be afraid to experiment and get creative. The key is to use your ears and trust your instincts. If it sounds good, it is good. With these strategies and techniques in your toolkit, you'll be well on your way to creating rich, immersive mixes that showcase the full potential of reverb and delay. Key takeaway: reverb adds depth and simulates physical space, while delay creates rhythm with repeated sounds. Both are key for dynamic mixes, but use them wisely to avoid muddiness. When applying reverb to vocals, it's important to choose a type that complements the singer's voice and the overall mix. A subtle room or plate reverb can add warmth and depth, while a longer hall reverb can create a more dramatic, spacious effect. Be careful not to overdo it, as too much reverb can make vocals sound distant or muddy, burying them in the mix. Delay can be a powerful tool for creating vocal effects, from doubling and thickening the sound to creating rhythmic echoes and call and response patterns. Use shorter delay times for subtle doubling effects and longer times for more pronounced echoes. Adjust the feedback and wet, dry mix to control the number of repeats and the prominence of the delay in the overall vocal sound. Remember, the key to effectively using reverb and delay on vocals is to enhance the emotional impact and clarity of the performance without overpowering it. Experiment with different settings and listen closely to how they interact with the rest of the mix to find the perfect balance for each song. By tailoring your reverb and delay effects to suit specific instruments like guitar and voice, you can take your mixes to the next level and create a more polished, professional sound that engages and inspires your listeners.